Matt Lenihan Boxing Social in association with Forged Irish Stout, Empire Fight Store. For the first time this week, Frank Warren. Frank, how are we doing? You looking well, my friend?
I'm good, Matt. What about yourself?
No complaints. What a fight week. I did not expect it to start the way it did. I remember coming down to try and interview you, hearing a load of screaming with what happened and kicked off. Just from your point of view, when you look back at it now, is this one of them things where you go, it's just fight week? Like, you'd never expect that in a month for Sundays.
It is fight week. We could have done that, but it's all done. Everybody's made their apologies, and we move on to where the fight should be happening, which is in the ring. And we got a great fight.
100%. I spoke to Tyson yesterday. This is one of the most, I've said, the most calmest, the most content he's been with the fight week, and he seems to be embracing the occasion, like really enjoying being here, knowing how special it is.
Tyson's a very cool guy anyway at fight week. He relishes fight week. He embraces all what goes on, the drama of leading up to the fight. And he's in a bit of a space as he was when I think in that first and second fight against Wilder.
Yeah.
But he's in much, much better physical condition. And if he's in better physical condition, he's also in great mental condition.
I spoke to Derek Chisora a couple of hours ago, and I asked him, obviously shared the ring with both, and said, Tyson Fury's condition, how he's come in. I said, what do you make of it? And he said, I would have liked to have seen him a bit more on him. He says he looks like he's going to be there to move around. He said, I want the Tyson that's going to come forward. I don't know, that's Derek's dream for blood kind of thing.
Yeah, well, that's what he wants. What I think nobody's picked up on is Usyk. He's coming in bigger, so how is it going to affect him carrying weight? Because, is that going to slow him down or not? I don't know. We'll see. But both of them have been in camp, back-to-back camps, without a fight in between since Christmas. Mm-hmm. So it's a long training camps they've had, and peaking and then having to, get back into it again and then get yourself back to the situation where, Saturday night you're going to be at your best. But as I say, Tyson, I'm not concerned about that. Tyson is light on his feet anyway.
Yeah.
He's probably one of the fastest, I think he's the fastest heavyweight out there, certainly for his size. I mean, normally the big guys like that, they're pretty, they're powerful, they lumber forward and throw their shots. Tyson's, he's got great footwork, fast hands, he switch hits, he's got great head movement, and he is I call him the professor of boxing. So he knows what he's got to do, and he doesn't make too many mistakes in preparation. And I know people might say, well, what happened with Ngannou? I think it was just a bad night at the office. That's what it was.
Yeah. Speaking to a few people this week about his legacy in boxing, now what he's done's incredible, and what he's doing here, Riyadh season, I feel like he's that pioneer for the mega fights to sort of bring the people back out here. But in terms of if he beats Oleksandr Usyk, the question I've been asking is, if he beats Oleksandr Usyk, is that the definitive he's this best of this era, or does he still need Joshua on the list?
Well, Oleksandr Usyk's beaten Joshua twice. Mm-hmm. So he has to beat Usyk, doesn't he? And that's done.
Mm-hmm. Would you argue that styles make fights and that's just suited for that?
I think, I've always said it from day one, I think AJ Styles made for him, more than Usyk's is. So, and you're right when you say he's done tremendously well, especially where he's come from, being the world champion who never lost his belts in the ring. He had a period of problematic periods, with as it's been well documented with he was drinking a lot, he was messing around a little bit with drugs and various other things, and he was in deep depression and suicidal, and eventually that was diagnosed by doctors as that he was bipolar. And bipolar is the new word for manic depressive. Mm-hmm. And what pisses me off a bit was some of these journalists and people who should know better, some of these lead journalists, where they continually criticise him for things he said. Now, if they had any concern about him and why he does it, they would go on the NHS site and see what bipolar is and what the symptoms are. And one of those symptoms is saying things that people might, not be happy with. It's quite a list, but he works hard. One thing about Tyson, he's never sold drugs. He's never been to prison. He's never robbed anybody. He's never done anything like that. He's been a consummate professional. Certainly since he's come back, he's done everything that's been asked of him. And I find that the British public know that. The British public turn out for him. Broke box office records at Wembley for any event. Sold out in winter, freezing, open air show, 60,000 tickets at Spurs. 3 books, #1 bestsellers. Netflix series, #1 in the UK. Everything he does is there's an audience for it, and there's an audience for it because people like him. So they don't read the room. And I was reading Simon Jordan today about how people say they don't like. I don't know where he gets that stuff, because we went at Wembley, we put the tickets on sale, and we had 400,000 people at the end of the day online trying to buy tickets without Dillian Whyte showing up at the press conference. Yeah. So nobody likes him.
Do you think, in fact, coming away from the boxing, that maybe what will mean more than the boxing is his legacy for what he's done with this story, with the losing of 10 stone, we know the suicide rates in young men under a certain age, and what he's done? Is that going to be his legacy, obviously, on top of more important?
I think for a man, especially like macho boxer, blue ribbon, heavyweight division, all what he's been through, to go out there and bare his soul and tell people what happened and inspire people. And mental health is as bad as being physically impaired. You're impaired, it's part of your body, and that's how it is. And for him to go out there and champion the cause and say that, look, it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody, but you can fight it. You've got to keep it under control, but you can fight where you're at. And bipolar don't clear up like that. No. He's got it. And at the end of the day, he controls it. If he suddenly says, I want to retire today,
he might not tomorrow,
and he wants to come back a month later or 3 months later, then so be it. I'd much rather he does that than retires and says he wants to come back in 3 years' time.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
No problem, 100%. I want to pick up on something that I heard earlier today in an interview. I was speaking to David Haye. He's another one who's come out with this controversial draw in what he says. I've heard Gareth say the same, and I'm like, what's this controversial draw? Why can nobody pick one or the other? Do you understand that?
Well, I don't know I don't get that. If it's a draw and it's controversial, then people will think, either one of them's won and one of them's lost, and vice versa. I don't see that. Whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. But I don't see it that way. I see Tyson coming out. I see him eventually dominating this fight, taking centre of the ring, and I see him using what he's got, his physical attributes, and I believe he will stop Usyk just after midway.
And final one. Something came up about the canvas, what I read. Usyk's team talking about the canvas, and I thought, are they taking a play out of Tyson Fury's play? But from when he went to Dusseldorf, complained about the thickness. I think it was a seam in between the canvas or something that he was complaining about. What did you make of all that? Did you think we've seen this before?
Well, you can't have it both ways. You're either saying he's lost too much weight, so what you can say, he wants to slow himself down. I mean, it's nothing. The canvas has nothing to do with him whatsoever. The British Boxing Board of Control and the Dubai at the Emirates or whatever it is, Boxing Commission, that's their decision. It has to comply with regulations. Simple as that.
And last one, what a card from top to bottom. We've got some unbelievable, I think it's sort of in the midst of all the commotion that's going on, we forget what an unbelievable card this is. How refreshing is it at this stage, obviously, your career promoting when you're seeing these cards? I mean, we've got Cordina on the card against Kakachi. What a fight. Opataya, Bradis, great fight.
Great rematch.
Kovalev's there as well. I mean, what a card.
Well, it's a great card and it's a great undercard, and I've got to be honest, and I'm not being rude because I've got guys fighting on the undercard. But it doesn't need an undercard. No. This is the event of the 21st century. This is the boxing event and a major sporting event of the 21st century. No doubt about it. We're going to find out who's the biggest, who's the baddest on the planet, and we're going to know he is. And he will go down in legacy. It'll be his legacy to be the best of this century. There's no doubt about that. But what cherry on the old cake, on the icing with the undercard. Fabulous fights on there. Good British fights, good international fights. It's a fabulous card.
100%. Look, Frank, I appreciate you giving us 10 minutes before this kicks off. We'll catch up later on.
Cheers, mate. Look after yourself.